Welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast, featuring inspiring interviews with Etsy shop owners, hosted by Ijama Elazu.
Hi, and welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Ijama, and I thank you for joining me for another episode of the podcast. This week, we're doing something I haven't done before. I have 3 guests on, and I'm really excited to talk with them because we're actually kind of neighbors. We live in Colorado. So my guests are, and I'll introduce Molly first. Molly runs the Etsy shop Megan Mo's Clubhouse with her sister and her mom. And Molly, welcome to the podcast. And I will have you introduce your sister and your mom.
Hi, thank you so much for having us on. As you said, I'm Molly, and my sister is Megan.
Hello.
And my mom is here as well. Her name is Sheila.
Hi.
Hi. You guys, I'm really excited to talk to you. First of all, I was just impressed that you guys are, all 3 of you are running this shop together. And if you don't mind, can we just start with how and why you decided to open up an Etsy shop together?
Yeah, sure. So we used to work in a different business entirely. We did vocational coaching for adults with disabilities. We did that together. It was our own. My mom ran the company for 4 years. And about 4 years ago, we knew that was coming to a close, which financially and just kind of overall was kind of sad for us. We enjoyed working together. And so during that time, we were just kind of brainstorming some ideas of something that we could do that could continue to be a supplemental income for each of our families and also give us the chance to spend some time together and work on something together. And that's kind of how the whole Etsy idea came up during that time.
You guys are a lot more disciplined than my sisters and I. We always talk about doing something together, and then we'll gather together and start brainstorming, and then we just end up just talking the whole time or just hanging out, and we never produce anything substantial, but we end up spending time together, but we just don't do anything substantial.
We've had plenty of those moments too. We've had a lot of days where we intend to be productive and it doesn't quite go that way.
Yeah,
our staff meetings often involve drinking coffee and chasing kids, and that's
Yes, exactly. They're the distraction. So I'm excited because I'm going to have them listen to this episode and know that it's possible. We can have fun, we can talk, but you can do some things that are productive. So now, why did you decide on Etsy as the place that you wanted to set up your next business?
Honestly, we've just always been into crafting together and artsy things. And, it's just something we've always kind of done together as a family in various outlets and ways. And it's actually kind of a funny story. My mom was pretty involved in her church, and they were doing a craft fair and they were short on vendors. So she asked us if we could fill a booth, and we agreed to it, not knowing what we were going to make ourselves. So we just kind of started looking into some ideas of something that we could work on that somebody might want to buy. And it's just kind of how the ball started rolling, and things have evolved a lot since then. But that was when we first realized this is something that we could do and turn into a business.
Yeah. So independently, you all were crafters. You all had a craft that you were doing already. So it just seems like Etsy was a natural platform to gravitate towards.
Right, exactly.
Okay. Have you, over the years, you've been selling since 2014 on Etsy. Have you, between then and now, considered other platforms to expand onto, like Amazon? And I know you also have your own website, which is meganmosclubhouse.com. I will link to that in the notes for this episode. But yes, have you considered also Amazon?
Well, just recently we were talking about looking into it more seriously. It isn't something we haven't gone there yet, but we're not opposed to it. We'd like to expand in different directions. We've sold locally, like on Facebook Marketplace and things like that.
Yeah. How did that work out?
It works out pretty well for me with my furniture just because I can sell locally and not have to worry about shipping.
Yes.
So most of the furniture that I have sold has been through that platform. But I'm hoping to really get more of it up on Etsy and available for purchase anywhere and just ship it.
Okay. That I just recently discovered the Facebook Marketplace as well, and I like it for selling locally too. One thing I'm really curious about is how you handle the division of labor for your Etsy shop. To me, it would be a dream to have other people working with me on the Etsy shop, because sometimes it just gets so overwhelming as one person. So how do you divide up who is responsible for what duties are required to keep the shop running?
We've just kind of naturally fell into our individual roles. For the most part, we all make something different. And we all have the Etsy app on our phones and all have access to the same account. So if a customer inquiry comes in, whoever's product it's directed towards will jump on and work with that customer. Obviously make whatever orders are your product. You're in charge of those orders. You're in charge of shipping them. And then as far as the logistics go, as far as accounting and keeping track of all of that, I've just sort of handled that from the beginning. I think the whole thing kind of started as my idea, so I've just kind of carried that and enjoyed doing it, and it works well for us. So we just kind of fell into our roles.
Okay. So does each person, can I ask who makes what? I know, Sheila, you make the furniture because you just said that. And Megan and Molly, what do each of you make?
I do primarily the wooden signs. And then I just recently started actually working on some of the industrial steampunk lamps and things of that sort, and coasters.
And I do all the clay ornaments that you see on there, the part of the shop that doesn't totally match everything else. But we've talked about if we needed to at some point divide it and make separate shops, just because it isn't all exactly the same style. But at this point, we've got something of a customer following and everything, so we just haven't. But like the clay ornaments and any of the metal embossed stuff, that's all mine.
Oh, okay. Nice. So is each person, when you come up with the idea for a new product and create it, do you just go into the account and then create the listing for it? Or do you have a different type of process where one person does all the listings, and so you know what's up and available in the shop?
We each handle all of our own listings for the most part. Like I said, we live close, we see each other constantly, and we're always in communication. So it's easy to bounce ideas off of each other when we have a new idea or we're listing something, or if we come up with something and say, hey, would it be okay if I list this, or does it not quite fit in? It's just kind of a constantly open line of communication, but for the most part, we each handle all of our own listings.
Okay. I like that. Now, do you recall how soon after opening your shop you got your first sale?
Yeah, it was actually within the first month. It was a couple of weeks, and completely caught me off guard.
I was just about to say, were you ready for it?
Yeah, it was exhilarating. But
Yes. And then after that, did you have like a gradual increase in sales, or did you go through what I know a lot of sellers go through is after that first sale, it gets really quiet for a while, and then things start picking up, and then the momentum starts gathering. Did you have that similar pattern, or right from the first sale, it was just up, or it's not uphill from there, but it just went on from there?
No, I would say the first thing that you described, it was the first month we had 2 sales, I think. Mm-hmm. And then it's just been kind of a steady, I think if you were to pull up a graph going all the way back to 2014, it's an upward trend, but with plenty of spikes and dips and all over.
Yes. Have you found that the end of the year is your busiest season, or is it pretty even throughout the year?
No, for sure. The end of the year is our busiest.
Yeah. Because part of what you sell is seasonal decorations. I just realized that. So I guess that makes sense.
Right.
Especially for Megan. She gets swamped usually at the end of the year.
Yeah, I would say 90% of my orders come from like mid-October to the end of December.
Oh, wow. Do you find that you have to make adjustments towards the end of the year when it comes to processing times and whatnot? Or are you able to plan ahead in anticipation of the deluge that is coming?
As my stuff, really, my top selling thing is a totally custom product. And people have to send me a picture of their house, and then I make a small ornament that replicates it.
Oh, right.
So it's not like I can make those ahead of time or anything.
Yeah.
And so it depends on the year and what my family situation is and everything. At times I've kept my processing time low and gotten kind of buried in orders and just barely been able to keep up. Other times I keep my processing time set at like 6 weeks. And so I'll cut my orders off at, around Thanksgiving if they want it by Christmas.
Oh, right. Okay.
A lot of what we do is custom, all three of us, which makes it really hard to plan for an influx at the end of the year.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. And so how does that fit in with your, like, the rest of your life? And not so much, not that you need to go into personal detail, but managing time at the end of the year, because right now, at the time we're recording this, tomorrow is Thanksgiving. Then we have Christmas coming up and then New Year. How do you manage your time? And I know it will probably look different for each of you, just because I assume just slightly different individual family circumstances.
Right.
We sleep in January.
Yeah, it gets a little bit crazy the closer to Christmas that we get. To be honest, time management is probably my biggest weakness.
Yeah.
Between my own children, and I also watch another 1-year-old 3 days a week. So yeah, I work on orders when the baby's sleeping or after the kids are in bed, or, wherever I can fit it in. And when it's getting close to Christmas time, it can get a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
And it's just a learning curve that I'm still trying to figure out.
Yeah. I think that's encouraging too for somebody else who is listening and feeling like they just don't have a handle on keeping it all together or just always being on top of things. I for one never feel like I'm on top of everything. At the back of my mind, I always just feel like there's more to be done, but I have to sleep.
We just did a craft fair and Molly got there and told me she went to bed at 4 and got up at 5. So
nice.
that's not uncommon.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
I try to plan better than that, but it happens.
Yeah, seriously, it does. When you do have quieter times in your shop, how do each of you use that? I don't want to call it downtime, but the slower times, which I know we all do from time to time. Do you tend to use it to come up with new product lines, or just to catch up on things, or learn new skills? How do you use extra time if and when you get it?
Lately I've tried to be a little bit more disciplined about using those downtimes to educate myself on, listening for your podcast, for example. I'll tune in and listen to your podcast, or I'll look into just different ways I can be using social media or promoting, or, doing something to address that downtime and make it better. Mm-hmm. In the past, I do sometimes use that to come up with new ideas or new products, which is fun, and I think that's important. But then I end up with all these products that maybe I haven't listed or I haven't promoted, and I'm wondering why I'm not making sales. And so I really, especially lately, I've been trying to be a little bit more disciplined about using that time wisely to boost traffic and boost sales and our presence.
Yeah. And can I ask about your separate website, which again is meganmoseclubhouse.com. Who is responsible for running that, and how much time do you devote to that compared to your Etsy shop?
Well, we all actually got together a few times when we first put it together, just as far as designing it and getting it launched. So that was definitely a joint endeavor. Mm-hmm. And then now that it's up and running, it's sort of just like Etsy. When we have a new listing, we all each, when I come up with a new product, I will go and put it on Etsy. And then usually at the same time, I will post it on our website as well and work on promoting that individually. So it's really something that we kind of all have our hand in it in some capacity.
Okay. May I ask what platform you used to build the e-commerce website? That's not a Pattern by Etsy platform website, is it?
It's not. It's through Wix.
Oh, okay. How was it using Wix? Was it pretty intuitive and straightforward?
Yeah. I think all of us would agree that none of us have any sort of experience in web design or anything, and it's very user friendly. And I think if you do know a little bit more what you're doing, we could probably do more with it than we have. But for people that don't really know what we're doing and don't have a lot of experience, it's been pretty user friendly.
Yeah. And customers are able to buy and check out from the website, right?
Yes, they are.
Oh, I think it looks really nice. It's very straightforward. I think it does not look confusing at all, and it's just a very clean design. And I know sometimes when sellers want to branch out to their own e-commerce website, sometimes we get really wrapped up in tools and just different bells and whistles that we can put on. And you've done just such a great job with this site. So I will link to Wix if anyone wants to check it out and see what they have to offer if you're thinking about building your own website. And simple is the best.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Thank you.
Oh, you are welcome. Now, can we talk about social media and how, well, not just social media, but how you promote your Etsy shop or your products? How much effort do you put in, and what platforms do you use to drive traffic to your shops?
So we are, I'd say primarily it's Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest. We're on Twitter, but to be honest, I don't understand Twitter. I have tried, and I don't think that is our primary source of traffic at all. So we're on Facebook, like my mom mentioned, we do a lot of Facebook Marketplace, which helps with some local things. Yeah. And then just our Facebook page, every time we put something new on Etsy, we then share it on that page. We try to keep our Facebook kind of personal and just a glimpse into, what our company is and what our daily life is like. And every now and then I'll have pictures of my kids because they're usually in the midst of my work area, and just really more of a personal look at our shop. And then Instagram is something that I'm somewhat new to just the past year. So I've been trying to learn how to better use that. I'm not sure how much traffic we're actually getting from Instagram at this point, but we're trying.
Yeah. Would you say Facebook of the different social media platforms you're on, Facebook drives the most traffic to your shop so far?
Actually, looking at our analytics on Etsy, it's Pinterest is where most of it comes from.
Oh, yeah.
Which surprises me because honestly, I'm not very wise in the way of Pinterest either. I always pin new items, but I'm not sure if I even have my Pinterest set up the way that a business one should be set up.
Yeah.
But the analytics say that we do have quite a bit of traffic coming from there.
Yeah, I know. That's the magic of Pinterest. It blows my mind because I'll tell you, all I ever do for Pinterest and my Etsy shop is, how when you add a listing, then you have the option to share and you can tweet it and then send it to Pinterest or Facebook.
Right. Yeah.
That's all I do. And like you, Pinterest sends traffic. I'm like, I couldn't do any less, and Pinterest works.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems to be what we do as well. It seems like a really good passive way of marketing is, one click, and I think it just kind of gains momentum over time. And
Yes. And I'm learning from just talking to other sellers that even with just a little bit more effort, the results that one can get from Pinterest as far as driving traffic and even sales increases exponentially with just a little bit more effort. And so recently I've been trying to actually go to the Pinterest website and what's it called? Do something to my pins. Rich pins, that's what it's called. Rich pins.
Yeah, I'm trying to learn about that too. And
Yes.
so far it's still kind of over my head, but it's
actually
on my list of things to figure out.
Yes. I figured after doing one, it actually wasn't as I thought it would be so complicated. I was like, okay, I have to sit down and do this. And it's one of those things when you do the first one, then it's like, oh, that wasn't so much of a big deal. And now Pinterest allows you to put hashtags like Instagram does, so that's good. So you can be found for more things.
Right.
Anyway, but yes, learning a social media platform is something, and what I've learned from, again, other sellers is to narrow down and pick one. I know I've said this many times. When I first started, I just thought I needed to be on every single platform every day doing everything, and that was just the fast track to craziness. No more.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. And that's why I'm okay letting Twitter kind of fall to the wayside and focus more on Instagram and the things that I understand at this point in time.
Yeah.
See where we can go with those.
Yeah. Now, I know on your website you have a blog. Do you do much blogging at all? Do you try and use that also as a way to pull in traffic to the site, or not? No, or not yet?
Not yet. I actually just added that page, but no, I have not even written a blog post yet. So, but no, that actually is another idea that someday when I have a little bit more time, probably after the Christmas season, I would love to start blogging a little bit just about telling our story and, offering anything that, like I mentioned earlier, could bring in some sort of passive traffic, something that could just always be out there, possibly grabbing people and bringing them into our site.
Yeah. Now, how much time would you say each week you spend, and I know for each of you it will be slightly different, you spend doing all things related to Etsy and running your shop?
I mean, that's a hard question to answer. It definitely depends week to week. When we're bogged down in orders this time of year, like we tend to get, it could be many hours a day that we're working just trying to keep up and get things shipped out.
Yeah.
And then during the slower seasons, like I said, I've just tried to be more disciplined lately at making sure, even if I don't have open orders, I'm still using that time to improve our listings or improve SEO or market, do social media, things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on the week and what's going on in life that week, I try to at least put maybe like 1 or 2 hours a day into it, even if I don't have any orders open.
Yeah.
But it definitely depends.
Okay.
And Molly, by and large, does far more hours than Sheila or I do. Right now, I'm homeschooling my kids and just trying to find a balance with my own time. So I've dialed it way back, and Molly is absolutely carrying the shop in hours.
Okay. That makes sense. Now, do each of you have a specific formula, or have you discussed a formula for determining the prices that you charge for your products, or do you just individually decide? I mean, not randomly, but you each have a different formula you use when it comes to product price determination.
Yeah, that we have such a wide range of things that we offer, everything
Yeah.
from coasters to large furniture. Um, so it definitely depends on the product and it depends on each of us. And I think we would each say that we started with kind of a basic formula, but for me personally, that has been another big learning curve is learning how to really value my time, not just pricing it at something that somebody would want to pay for. Early on, I took into consideration the cost of materials, and then I went out and looked at what are similar items selling for and tried to price it just according to that. And I've just really discovered lately that the amount of time I'm putting into this is not only my time, but my family's time, and
Yeah.
just that there's value on that and trying to keep that in mind when I'm pricing.
Yeah.
And I think we found that we don't want to be just the lowest price. That doesn't even improve sales. So we do need to value our time and our efforts.
Yes, I agree. And thank you for saying that, because I feel like I need to say that in almost every episode, or I like it if somebody says it at least once in each episode, is just the importance of valuing time and not underpricing one's products. I told the story, I think it was a while ago. My brother bought mittens on Etsy and he was so proud of himself. He called me, he's like, I bought something from Etsy, because he knows I do the podcast. I'm like, yes, great. And he goes, but I can't believe that she charged what she did, because these are high quality mittens and I don't think what I paid is enough for, what they are. And it just made my heart sad, because I thought, that's a problem we have on the platform, is people not really charging for the quality of products they're making. And hopefully that will encourage someone to not, charge something exorbitant, but really, charge according to the quality of what you're making and selling.
Right. It's easy to, especially with something like, our wooden signs. I can create something and think, well, they could go buy this at Target for $10. What am I thinking charging this price for it?
Right.
But people aren't on Etsy because they want to shop at Target. They're on Etsy because they want something that's unique and handmade, and they want to support small business. And it's just, you have to learn not to compare yourself to the smallest price tag out there.
Yes.
I think artists are notorious for undervaluing their own work.
Yes, so much so that, if you don't mind my asking, why do you think that is?
I think for me personally, it's a lack of confidence. There's something to creating something and almost being surprised that somebody wants to spend their hard-earned cash on something that I create. In a sense, you almost feel like a fraud putting something up and asking somebody to spend money on it. So that's, again, this whole experience has been a learning curve, but that has been a huge part of it, is learning to just be confident in what you're creating and the fact that people are willing to spend money on it. And valuing it at that.
Yes. I think you hit the nail on the head there. Is confidence is just feeling, it's accepting the fact that somebody wants to pay money for something I've made, where, for you it might not seem like that big of a deal, but I like that.
Yeah.
Typically, when you get a new idea, and this can be anyone, Molly, Megan, or Sheila, you can answer this. When you get a new idea for a product, typically how long does it take from getting the idea for the concept for the product to actually creating it and then having it up and listed in the shop?
That's a loaded question. I know for me personally, if I get an idea, it's the kind of thing that will keep me awake at night. Like I won't sleep until I actually get up and go make it.
Yeah.
But then actually getting pictures taken and listing it is a whole different story. I have things that I spent this time creating and I wonder why I'm not selling it. And then I realize it's because it's sitting on my kitchen table and it's not any on our site. That's why. So yeah, listing it is a different story. What would you say?
Molly is very much that way. She gets an idea and she runs with it immediately. I'm not so fast with it. I have to mull it over and figure it out. And probably my production time is much longer than hers. Doing the furniture, I have to live with a piece of furniture for a while before I even figure out what it wants to be.
Yeah.
I haven't been putting new listings recently. Like I said, most of my stuff is custom, so I wait on those orders to come. And early on when I was adding new things to the site, I was kind of fast and furious, and then I got up there what I could handle and haven't really tinkered with my listings in quite a while.
Okay. I like that because I think right there we have like practically the full range of all creatives.
Right.
The run with it, the sit with it, and the I'm not even there.
Exactly.
That describes it pretty well.
I like that. So do you find that in the times when you get into creative ruts, and even if they're few and far between, what tends to work for you to just get those creative juices flowing again?
Sometimes it just takes walking away for a little bit, I think. Especially if the shop itself is in a rut, we're not getting a lot of sales. It's really easy to get discouraged and think nobody wants to buy what I'm making. Why am I doing this? And so I found for me personally, just maybe walking away and not focusing so much on the sales, or like I mentioned earlier, listening to podcasts, or I have a couple of Facebook groups that focus on helping Etsy sellers. And sometimes that's all it takes to get me kind of motivated and itching to work on it again. I don't know. That would be where I come from.
Okay.
I agree with Molly. I also I can get motivated watching like YouTube videos of other artists doing similar things to what I do. That will usually just get the creative juices flowing too.
Yeah. I love YouTube.
Well, yeah,
Absolutely.
you can just learn anything on YouTube.
Who needs college when you can just look stuff up?
Exactly. YouTube University. I'm like, I don't need the degree. I can just watch it. One thing I remembered and I want to ask you about. So typically when sellers open up a shop on Etsy, we go about it two ways. And I recently got a question from someone who listens to the podcast, and I think you guys would actually be the perfect ones to help me answer this question. You were running a business before you opened up your Etsy shop, Megan Mo's Clubhouse. And then, so you had that experience already of running a real business in the real world, if you will. And then you opened your shop on Etsy. The question I had that someone asked was, when should I make it official with my Etsy shop? When do I know that it's time to go and open up the business account and file the paperwork for, with the business name, etc.? What would you say?
That's a really good question.
I'd say when the sales get to a point where it's cumbersome to handle it out of your personal account and things start to get muddled. When we had 2 sales in a month on Etsy, that wasn't too much of an issue. But as soon as it gets a little bit busier, it's really essential that you separate things out.
Yeah. I would say too, though, we've kind of always had the mentality of fake it till you make it. And if you want to feel like a legitimate business and you're motivated to turn it into a legitimate business, the sooner the better. Because it's like a stepping stone to make you man up and make it a business.
True.
Okay. Yeah.
That really helps with that whole confidence level too. If you're treating it like a business, and you feel like a business, your confidence is going to rise to match that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I like that. And hopefully that person is listening. Yes. What are some things that you did to set yourselves up for success on Etsy?
Oh man, I don't know. Have we done that?
Nope.
To be honest, I think one of our biggest advantages early on is that we started out with not really much in the way of expectations. We didn't know if it would go anywhere, and fortunately, we were all in a position where our livelihood didn't depend on it.
Yeah.
So we were able to kind of have fun with it and experiment and see where it went. And thankfully, I think God is good and He has blessed it for us, and it's grown to something that is a nice little supplemental income for each of us. But I think, at least for me personally, I would say that was one of my biggest advantages, is that it was not my livelihood was not dependent on it when we started. So we were able to have fun with it and stay positive and just kind of run with it where it took us.
Okay. I like that. And I'm glad you mentioned managing one's expectations, because I think especially when it comes to running a business in the online world, there's a lot of misinformation out there that tends to give the idea that it's easy and it's easy money and it's easy sailing, and it isn't necessarily. And sometimes folks get into it with expectations that aren't realistic and then get disappointed. So managing one's expectations in the very beginning, I think, is a good way to set yourself up for success, because then you can go with it as it goes and not expect more or even less than you should.
Right. I think being unrealistic, you can get discouraged really quick, and I think that could be the worst thing for a business, is if you're just discouraged and lose all that motivation and that momentum. And that's a really good way to run things into the ground, I think.
Yeah. And I've done that before, so I know. What's one thing about selling on the Etsy platform that you really like? And then on the flip side, are there any features that you would like to see Etsy one day have available to sellers on the platform?
I mean, I am just so grateful for Etsy and just the traffic that they bring in, just by being Etsy. Starting our own website has been kind of an eye-opener of, it's not easy to just go start your own platform. Like, granted how much Etsy really does try to, they make money when you make money, and they drive quite a bit of traffic. So that would be my biggest thing that I've been grateful for Etsy, is just not having to worry about. I mean, you still have to promote. You can't wait for Etsy to sell all your items for you, but just it starts you off on such a better foot than just launching your own platform.
Yeah.
And in comparison to, consignment shops here in town, or even just the little bit of looking we've done on Amazon and things like that, they're reasonable as far as the fees and everything associated with it.
Even after all their recent fee increases and everything, I think they're still far and wide more reasonable than most of the platforms out there.
Yeah, I agree with that. Even after the fee increases, I know that was a big shock to everyone, but it's still so reasonable.
Right.
It is, and you can't beat the exposure that you get through Etsy that you just can't do on your own, at least to begin with.
And I know that they're putting some of that money towards ads. I don't know if you've ever seen the ads that they have. I recently saw one of their ads on TV, and I had to laugh because one of my brothers-in-law, he always makes a joke about selling. He's like, "Can you sell my car on Etsy for me?" I'm like, don't you get it? How many times do I have to explain what Etsy is? It's not eBay, it's Etsy. And so the commercial comes on. I'm like, look at what they're talking about. Do you see cars? Do you see parts?
No, I had that same thought. The number of times that I've told people I sell on Etsy and then I've had to stop and explain what Etsy is, I'm really grateful that they're putting commercials and ads out there. I don't think it's necessarily mainstream knowledge. Not everybody knows what Etsy is.
Yes. Yeah. I have to remind myself that. that if you're not in the quote industry, it doesn't mean anything to
Right.
someone
Yeah,
who
I
doesn't
think
know.
I think the show making it has given it a real boost in getting it out to the public.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. And I don't know, I have this quote conspiracy theory. I've been putting two and two together, and I'm going to give this disclaimer up front. I know nothing. I don't know anyone. Nobody has told me anything. I don't know any of the higher ups. But I was putting pieces together, and I think NBC might have an interest in Etsy because Ellen's show does this section on, Etsy finds or something like that. Somebody told me about that, so I went to look it up on YouTube. And her show is part of NBC Universal. And then there's Making It. And then there was one other thing. I can't remember what it was. And so I'm putting all these clues together and I'm thinking maybe the big thing Etsy is going towards is being sold to NBC Universal.
That's an intriguing conspiracy theory. He might be onto something there.
Yeah. But like I said, I don't know anybody. Nobody has said anything to me. This is just me hoping, because I think it would be good. I don't know. I just feel like if an entity like that bought them, I know people will say, or feel like the soul of Etsy is going, but there's something to be said for having a deep pocket that can pay for things.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I know there's been a lot of negativity around all of the fee increases and changes around Etsy, but I think overall it's all in our best interest. I think it's going to be a good thing.
Okay, so we didn't get to what features you would like to see Etsy implement. And if you have none, that's okay, because they do offer a lot of good things.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I can't really think of anything.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't really have anything. So for the most part, we're pretty happy with it.
Yeah. Okay. What advice, and anyone can give this, would you give to that person who's listening and is just starting out on Etsy? It's early days. What advice would you tell them right now just to keep them going?
Probably what we already touched on. Just, I would say go for it, for one, because if you mull something over in your head enough, you'll always talk yourself out of it.
Yeah.
So I would say just go for it and see what happens, but do so with realistic expectations and patience. It's easy to get discouraged when you see these shops that have thousands of sales and are making a 6-figure income and assume that'll happen when you open your shop, and just realize it takes time and it takes work, and that's not going to happen overnight. And jump in with 2 feet, but be patient and be willing to make adjustments and see where it takes you.
I would also add goal setting and planning as far as deciding if you're brand new, okay, I'm going to spend at least 1 hour a day doing something towards this goal, or whatever you can devote to it right at the beginning. But at least, I guess I'm speaking for myself. I'm a great procrastinator, but if I don't do that, I get nothing done. And I look back and a month has gone by and I haven't touched it. So I think that's really important, especially in the beginning, to get things rolling, is to make a plan and set a schedule and try really hard to stick to it.
Yeah.
And I think a month is a long time when you are talking about online retail business, when you could be spending that time doing something like social media. That stuff snowballs. The stuff that you do today will add up and make a huge difference tomorrow. So that lost time is huge if you look back and realize what you could have been working on that you weren't.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really good point to make.
Wow. Thank you, ladies. I love all that advice. I'm taking it to heart, because I think not just new people, new sellers need to hear that, but everyone, really.
Yeah, I was thinking I should take my own advice.
We'll listen to this later and then do some of that.
Yes. And I'm like, when we hang up, I'm going to set some goals. Are there any tools or resources for selling on Etsy or in general, just running your business that you have found particularly helpful that you wouldn't mind sharing? They can be books, they can be online resources, anything.
We just recently started using both Etsy Rank and Marmalade.
Yeah.
And I feel really silly for taking so long to look into either of them because I think they are invaluable resources as far as working on your SEO and seeing if the tags you're using, I was just looking at a listing yesterday and I put in all of these tags that I thought were awesome and came to find out that they're being searched like 0 to 50 times a month and probably 2 of those searches were me. So just realizing that there's resources like that out there that can help you improve SEO and those are phenomenal. Like I said, I just started using them, so I'm not super versed in them yet, but I think that they are excellent and worth your time.
I keep going back to YouTube. I think that's a great resource for so many things. And you can, whether you're looking for information on SEOs or how to do a certain procedure with whatever your craft is, whatever. I think that's a resource.
Yes,
Absolutely.
I agree. And I will link to, for anyone who doesn't know any of these resources, I'll have links to them. Also, in your shop manager, if you have an active Etsy shop right now, there is the new integrations section, and you can link directly to Marmalade and Etsy Rank in the integrations section and start using them. I believe they both have paid levels, but you can get quite a bit without before you have to pay anything. So It's worth checking them out. Now, do any of you have an Etsy shop shout out? This is if there's another seller you just want to recognize, perhaps they've helped you along the way, or you just enjoy their shop and shopping with them, and you just want to let others know about the good work they're doing.
Gosh, there's one that I keep going back to regularly, and it's called Whiny Guys, because one of the things that I do are barrel staves, customized or with sayings on the barrel staves. So that's where I've done all my shopping for the blank staves.
Is it whiny, like wine,
like
the drink, or whining?
The Y on the end, yeah, Whiny Guys.
Oh, okay. I like that. All right.
Yeah.
Whiny Guys. I will link to their Etsy shop so folks can go and check them out.
Great.
What's the best way if people want to get in touch and connect with you outside of after listening to this? What's the best way they can connect with you ladies?
Honestly, either Etsy or Facebook is usually the quickest way to reach us. Either our Facebook page, which is just Megan Mo's Clubhouse, just message through there, or a convo through Etsy.
Okay.
Our email is also meganmose@gmail.com, and that's an option too.
Okay. And I will have links to all of those in the notes for this episode, so folks will be able to connect with you. So they'll be able to connect with you. I will have links to those. And I want to say to Molly, Megan, and Sheila, thank you so much for being my guests. I wasn't sure how it was going to work with 3 people, but I still wanted to try it anyway. And so now you've actually helped me cross yet another milestone in doing this podcast. Next will be 4 people. I don't know if that's even possible. But thank you so much for being my guests.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having us on. We were so excited to have you reach out to us.
Oh, yes. And again, to check out what Molly, Megan, and Sheila are doing, please go to Megan Mo's Clubhouse on Etsy, or meganmoseclubhouse.com. I will have links to those in the show notes for this episode. And I thank you for listening to this episode. I will be back again next time.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. You can subscribe to the podcast in iTunes, and while you're there, please leave a review too. Visit convome.com to leave a comment or feedback on this episode.